Hi, y'all. How we doing? This is your host, Rob Napoli. If you're a podcast junkie like me and you're looking for a new podcast to add to your feed, you might want to check out the Success Fundamentals podcast with my guys, Brian Goldstack and Chris Sykes, where they drop weekly episodes that cover all things success and growth. You can find the Success Fundamentals podcast on whatever platforms you enjoy listening to this podcast, the Bear Necessities. Hey y'all, how we doing? Shout out once again to Bear Nation for tuning in to another episode of the Bear Necessities podcast. I am your host, Rob Napoli. The Bear Necessities is a podcast where we sit down with entrepreneurs, ecosystem partners, and innovation folks to talk about what it takes and means to launch, create, and scale business across the world. We talk about the journey and the challenges of being entrepreneur-minded and how that translates into your journey, giving you the tools and knowledge to overcome challenges that you may be facing in your life's journey. The Bear Necessities is part of the Rise Up Media family, and we thank you for tuning in. Now, let's get into the show. How are we doing, Bear Nation? This is your host, Rob Napoli, and we are back again for another episode of the Bear Necessities podcast. Today, I have my guy with me. I'm really excited to chat with Neil Bradley, who is the founder of Food Safe Systems. I've known Neil, I think, since 2020, so going on 2 years when you joined the Start Accelerator program, the online version during the pandemic. My listeners know Starta well. We had Gabe and Anastasia on for an early episode, but Neil has over 25 years in the hospitality industry, with a heavy focus on, he was a chef, and not just any chef. He spent 10 years as chef patron at his own Michelin-rated restaurants. And what he decided to do after all these years working in hospitality, working in kitchens and running Michelin Star kitchens, realized that there was a lot of things from an operational efficiency that wasn't quite right. So he jumped into restaurant tech to identify and develop solutions that address challenges faced in professional kitchens. And it's the same challenges that he faced, and thus founded Food Safe Systems, which we'll get into. So Neil, say hello to Bear Nation for me.
Hello, Rob. Hello, Bear Nation. Yeah, listen, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure and it's awesome. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it. As I said, I'll start if you want to, or just show questions, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to kind of talk about, I want to start with your story from the beginning. You know, you spent 25 years in the hospitality industry. What led you into that first part of your career as you were growing up? What led you into hospitality, especially as a chef? Like, what was the inspiration behind wanting to be in the kitchen?
It's kind of a hard one because I can't really pinpoint one particular point where I said that's what I want to do. I was sure from about 11 years old that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. I wanted to be a chef. My family aren't chefs. We didn't come from hospitality. You know, my dad was a plumber. My mom was a hairdresser, stroke florist. All my brothers went into the plumbing trade and stuff. So yeah, I was kind of, so there was definitely no inspiration on that side of it, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I just, and at the point where I think at one stage I went to secondary school and I was kind of getting bored with it and I knew I didn't want to be there. And I was saying to my dad, so I don't want to be in school. I just want to go to a catering college, or go to a culinary college and do that. And then I want to do this bit. And he's like, no, stay at school and do it. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Let me out. Eventually, he never actually gave in. He said, right, okay, let's go. We'll go to culinary school. We'll talk to them, see what we can do, and then go from there. They go there and say, listen, stay in school and then decide what you want to do afterwards. So at 16, that was me. School done. I'm going to culinary college. And that was it. You know, from 11 years old, that's what I wanted to do.
That's amazing. And so you grew up in Northern Ireland, right?
Yeah.
So, coming from, being up in Northern Ireland and your background, like you said, your dad was in the trade, tradesman and then the plumber, and your mom hairdresser. And 11 years old, you knew this was like, when you were growing up as a kid, were you like, I mean, I don't know, did you have like the Little Debbie like bake shop? Like, was that something, or is it just like you just love food and something about watching people cook meals like it's like was exciting to you? I know there's like no like magic inspiration, but
it was just I think it was just the whole concept and the whole idea of food and the cooking and kitchens. I just loved the idea of that. I wanted to be part of that. I kind of knew that's where I fitted in and what I wanted to do. I said when I've been on a farm, a family that nobody knew how to cook. My dad was actually pretty good. And, my dad's breakfast and his Sunday dinners were awesome. And my grandmother was fantastic as well in the bakery side of it. So there was that part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just something that I kind of knew from very early. So this is just what I want to do. And
I love that. Well, me, I'm kind of a romantic. We've known each other for a couple of years. Yeah. That growing up in a Catholic Italian family, my family's meals weren't the same, but like all my friends like had Sunday dinners, and like that was a big thing. And you see how a meal can bring people together, right? And a meal is a bonding moment. So I'm not surprised that if you fell in love with that feeling of like those dinners and being around the family and the presentation, there's an art form to it. It can be a bit exciting. And I was just telling you kind of pre-show, our listeners, my wife and I, as we're recording this, recently got back from a vacation in Italy. We're at this amazing little hotel owned by one of the companies that my wife does business with. And we got to stay there and have the chef on site like cook for us, the private chef, and the experience of that, of like talking through the food, the presentation, why the pairings happened, it gives you a different appreciation for it as an art form. And I think a lot of us look at food, me included, growing up with 4 boys playing sports, like you had to eat fast because if you ate fast, you get more. Otherwise, you could leave the table hungry. Versus like that art form, and I saw that growing up, so I'm not surprised. I think that's it might be safe to say there's something subconscious about the experience, which I think for me really kind of hit home of like the experience of a meal when it's done right. So 16, you left secondary school, went into culinary college. What was that like? Did you have an idea you wanted to cook and do this stuff? Did you know, I don't know, do chefs have specialities? I know there's like sous chef and head chef. Like walk me through like where your brain is at as you went into culinary school.
I mean, I knew nothing going into culinary school, which was when I look back now, it's like, gee, I really didn't know nothing. Because I didn't really have any experience of restaurants before I went into culinary college, and again, like I grew up, I've got 3 brothers. We had to eat fast in our house. My brothers took great pleasure in making sure that that usually me said, listen, let's just put him off food so he doesn't want to eat his food, and then we can have it. That was kind of our house grew up in. And as I said, Dad ended up being a good cook. My mom was a terrible cook. Hope she won't see a podcast, so I'm okay there. But yeah, I mean, working this, just getting in the kitchens, and culinary college was good in a way that I got some grounding of what I needed to do. But like most things, it's when you get into restaurants and get into kind of professional restaurants and out in the industry is where you definitely can find your feet and see, actually, is this for me or not? Because I know a lot of guys who went to culinary college with, dropped out afterwards because they just went from culinary college into restaurants and actually went, I don't want to do this. I went into restaurants and goes, I want to do this more. I just want to do this. And I suppose like a lot of people, it's meeting mentors, basically, guys who are doing wonderful, amazing things that you haven't seen before, who are pushing the boundaries, and you going, that's what I want to do. So the very first chef I worked under, and it was a tiny little restaurant above a bar in a really rural village in Northern Ireland, a beautiful village called Rostrevor. And he had just come back from New York when he opened up this small restaurant. I think he was the executive chef of Yankee Stadium when he left New York. So he obviously went from that to whatever this tiny little kitchen and restaurant in a rural village in Northern Ireland. The kitchen was, I mean, there was 3 of us in it, and it was tight at 3 people in the kitchen. And yeah, and the food, it just opened my eyes to what food was and what it could be, and you know, and I got the I suppose you always had the passion for it, but it just ignited it even further.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you get this great experience and getting to see what food's like. What drove you to want to become, the patron chef at your own Michelin kind of star restaurants? Like, how did that come about, or what was that journey like? 'Cause I'm sure that's tough to do, and get to and strive for in the community.
Yeah, it is. Obviously from there, from working at kind of called Patrick K's, the tiny little restaurant. I kind of went there. Actually did another year in the kind of higher catering college in Belfast, the city in Northern Ireland. From there, I kind of say, okay, well, I'm just going to stay here. I remember one day, I left. I walked out of the catering college, but I got to find myself a job. So I walked around and I think a couple of days before, I made a list of the kind of walked around, saw all the restaurants, said I want to work, read the menus, I want to work there, I'll work there, I like to work there. So the first one I went into, I said, yeah, I like this menu, I want to work here. I just knocked on the door, said, any jobs? They went, yeah, come on ahead. So that was my first kind of probably my second job in regards to working. And again, working for a great chef and that, so that started me, and that would have been, you say, the sous chef, head chef bit. From there, I would have been like the commis chef, the young guy just starting, not knowing too much, and from there, I kind of worked my way up through the different levels. So you go from commis chef, who's the trainee, to the chef de partie, means the chef of a station. So you have you own and run your own station, responsible for that. Up to the sous chef, the second chef, who deputizes for the head chef and runs the kitchen. Then obviously the head chef who makes the decisions. So I worked from there, from commis chef up to second chef in that restaurant, which was a great experience. And again, I was 19 at the time. It was just work play. So it was pretty intense. So that was the kind of the first job from there. After that, I am taking a head. I think I left there and I took second chef jobs at another restaurant. I wasn't there too long, and the head chef left. I think I cooked him, so he kind of got a bit uncomfortable. And I did that for a few years, running this kind of really small French bistro in close in Belfast. It's kind of at that stage I kind of realized I really needed to learn some more. And one of the guys who I worked with in the previous restaurant had moved to one of the Michelin Star restaurants in Belfast. Mm-hmm. So I said, listen, can I, he asked just, do you want to come and work here? So I went back from being a head chef, back down to chef de partie again in the Michelin Star restaurant, and I had to kind of start again, working my way up.
Yeah.
So that was, so I said, again, I did a couple of years in the Michelin Star place. Ended up helping a really gorgeous restaurant chain launch in Belfast in their first flagship restaurant. Ran that for 2 years, got obviously good food guide, got Michelin rated in that. And then somewhere along the lines, I was sitting down talking to my now wife, Sarah. I said, listen, I think we could do this on our own. And then that's just where it started, and it was just, how do we do this on our own?
That's amazing. I think that there's a key lesson there that sometimes to get where you want to go, you have to take a step back to go another step forward. And I think a lot of people, especially in today's age, it's really easy. It's like you got to keep going step by step. And we have to realize that career paths are not always linear, and it's okay to take a step back to take a step forward, especially if what that means to get into a Michelin Star rated, kitchen.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool and a really big lesson. And so, you're doing all this and you kind of been doing this for years, a couple decades worth, right? And then there was kind of a moment where you decided to say, I'm done with leading a kitchen and I wanted to start a company. What was that like? What were some of the things that started happening in your life that made you want to leave the kitchen as a chef and start a business?
It's kind of, so again, I kind of sat with I sat with Sarah and we decided this is what we're going to do. We had saved a bit of money to do that. I think it was just, we can do this. I think there's a lot that I want to do and a lot that I want to do it. I want to do it my way. Is one. Sarah says it's kind of my thing. Everything has to be done your way, and it goes, well, it's usually the best way. So, and then it was just say, okay, well, what do we want to do, and how are we going to do it? I think it is just to have that. Obviously, hospitality is it's hospitable. It's making experience. It's the food, it's the service, and it's everything. And everything you touch in hospitality is you. Every plate that leaves is a representation of what you do and what you are and how good you are, and that should extend to everything out there. So we just decided at that point it was trying to find, obviously try to get some money together to finish it off, find the premises where we could open a restaurant, and I think within about, I think I opened our first restaurant. I think it was just signed the lease. I think 6 was it, but no, was it? It was 2 weeks before my 30th birthday, so we signed the lease to the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So 4 weeks before the 4 weeks before my birthday, we signed the lease to the restaurant. So that was before my 30th birthday. I was actually, we got the keys, about a week after my father died, which was hard. Mm-hmm. So that's when we opened. So the first restaurant we opened was called Copper. Mm-hmm. Again, it kind of came from my father's background as a plumber and the copper. So that went on to the restaurant. That was a hard and emotional time, but it was fantastic to get it open. But it had that also that part of it to work.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you open your own restaurant, and you're kind of doing things your way, and you run a restaurant for a number of years. When you started running it from top to bottom, I'm sure it was a little bit different than just being a chef or the head chef. What were some of the things that started to challenge you that turned into not just running your own kitchen, but what eventually becomes food safe systems? Was there some things in the restaurant business that you're running that you're starting to be why am I doing this way? And where was that as you were running your own restaurants to where we are today? What started to happen that opened your eyes to creating an operating system for kitchens as a way to help support what you were doing and learning as running your own business?
Yeah, as you say, going from running the kitchen to running the whole business is a huge step, because all of a sudden, in the kitchen, it's relatively easy. You got to be there. You got to cook. Obviously, you got to make sure you're making money, and kind of something I was always good at was making sure that we can make good food and we can make money on it. We could control the costs. You then had to go the other side, and obviously, manage and train staff as well. We then had to go do that as a whole business, manage and train, obviously, floor staff. And then the other side of the business was a bit that everybody hates in all business. It's the admin side, it's the keeping the account side, it's the keeping up the regulations, doing all this. Is wow, I didn't do this to spend 2 days a week in an office.
Yeah.
But that's what they ended up having to do. And then along the way, I kind of like the started getting into technology. It started off with just the iPad based POS systems. So we opened. So after Copper closed, we closed it after about 8 years. I think we closed. Mm-hmm. Then we opened up a French bistro type, and at that stage we were getting into I was getting into the technology side, and I said the iPad based systems and that. But all the time throughout the restaurant, there was always that admin side of chefing that I hated. Mm-hmm. Again, I had this conversation with a hotel owner yesterday about having the same issues with the chefs. I said, because chefs are terrible at paperwork. I said, well, nobody has a chef to do paperwork. It's never your, sorry. It's not the first thing you're looking for. That's usually the last thing you get. And that kind of, so whenever I had the restaurants, or certainly the Sugar Supper Club, the little French bistros, I was like, well, I need something to help me do this. And the restaurant, particularly around the food safety side, how do we get rid of that admin side? How do we make that more efficient, so I can just stop worrying about it and go and work with things that make us money. And that started off with iPads and POS systems, and then ended up just going further and further and down the technology wormhole.
Yeah. Do you still own the restaurant?
No.
No.
No, I had the, so Copper, we had it for about 8 years. I think we closed it. I kind of swore I'd never do another restaurant again. Went to work for all the people. I think within 18 months, I opened another restaurant. And then opened another one apart from that. But at that stage, when we had those, so they were called Sugar Supper Club. And I liked, and there's a story behind those as well. And then, but from there, I kind of, this tech side is more interesting. And I suppose, and I could spend less time. I don't have to work every weekend for crazy hours to do this. I can actually have not do what I want to do, but also be able to spend more time with family as well.
Yeah. So when was Food Safe Systems born? Like when did you start creating FSS and putting this in motion?
So we opened the supper clubs in the end of 2013, started 2014. At that stage, I was I began to look at, obviously we'd done technology side, we'd done the iPad POS systems, and I actually spun off a small business, setting up and reselling iPad based systems as well. So I was already going to do that side of sales in regards to the business. And then I sat down and goes, okay, how do we do this? So I obviously went looking what else was out there, systems that were looking out there, and I kind of realized they were pretty terrible and they were really, really expensive. I knew as a restaurant owner, I knew what my profit margins were like. I knew that I could never afford them.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, no, why not? Surely technology now has got the point where we can afford it. So that was our aim. How do we build this system? Make sure it was usable and make sure it was affordable. So that was around 2016 around that stage. We applied for, a little bit of grant funding, which got the first prototype built of it, which was terrible, but was enough to get us a bit of angel funding then to build the next version.
I love that. And so with Food Safe Systems, Food Safe Systems, for those listening in, as we get into like what Neil's doing today, it's a combination of things to help. There's an app, there's sensors, the probes, and then you have the cloud access. But basically, it helps manage your kitchen from paperwork to monitoring freezer levels to make sure that food doesn't go bad or things don't happen where you have a loss of food because, as you just mentioned, that profit margin is not really that big. So protecting, your asset, which is food, which is perishable. So if you order too much or not enough, you're losing out on margins because you're either throwing stuff away or you're not selling it. So as you've kind of built this and you built the original prototype and now scaling, what are you looking to accomplish with Food Safe Systems?
I think the very core idea at the very beginning was to make sure we have a usable and affordable product that allows restaurants to operate more efficiently. And it's still very much a very core of what we do is, how do we help restaurants? How do we, I think I say, first of all, people have to ask me, said, I want to open a restaurant. I said, just don't do it. It's but if you are going to do it, good luck to you, and you really do deserve, to succeed, and we want to help you succeed. And that's the very core of everything that we do. As I said, without getting too boring in regards to the Food Safe system, what it does, you have to ensure that the food you serve, the food you buy right through to serve it is safe, and suitable to eat. The only way to prove that is to document a lot of checks, which obviously takes up time for the chef and that. So we digitize all that through the app on one side, and then we have little sensors that monitor fridges and freezers and for food safety reasons and for protect loss reasons. And I know that happened to me in my restaurant. So again, that was a big thing, and it was automating those processes as well for chefs so that we could free them up. But in regards to the Food Safe system, I definitely see that's our core, is to make sure that we can help restaurants become successfy allow them to focus on what's important And I'm not saying food safety isn't important. Of course it is, but it's not the reason to open the restaurant.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think it's really important because when you think about all the things that, as you mentioned, that running your own restaurant or even being a chef, spending 2 days of your time in an office doing paperwork pulls you away from the creativity or the experience of creating the food. And so that's what I think is really cool about food safe systems. And it's exciting. And it's interesting to see how you've used your entrepreneurial experience of running your own and starting your own restaurants to starting your own business. What has been one of the key, I guess you learned that entrepreneurial background by running your own restaurant, but what's been one of those key differences from running restaurants to now running a technology company? What's that transition been like?
So as I say, when people come to me and say, I want to open a restaurant, say, well, unless you're a chef or at least a very much experienced front of house guy, just don't do it, because you're just walking into a world you don't understand. And then I went and did it and a tech business. So I started a tech business, and I not the tech guy. Very much not, and it has hurt us over the years that we didn't have that at the beginning. We thought we could outsource it. That didn't work on a few times. So that was the hardest bit. Yeah, no, that was definitely the hardest bit. In regards to what food safe system is just the tech is obviously a part of it, is the main part of it, and it's got to be right. And no matter what, contractors just don't care. They honestly don't care. They just want to make sure that they get paid, regularly, and so again, it's the other bit of advice. If people come and say, I want to do something, say, just spend your time, get somebody to do the tech side, spend whatever money you have, just do it on that, and the rest will come with it. That's just the most. I didn't take my own advice. Was the core of that.
Yeah, and that's a big lesson. I think many times, I ran for a number of years in outsourced sales of service, and I think outsourcing sales is a very great thing to do if you're looking to expand to new markets and test some things out. But you have to be, when you outsource, I think it's a great model and it can be done well. But you have to be very diligent at how you are outsourcing, what you're outsourcing, why you're outsourcing it, when, who you get involved, because at the end of the day, no one's going to be able to do it quite like you. And also there's the nuances of things that in your head as you're building a product that you see as things get going that doesn't always get seen in an outsourced model. So I think it's really important to figure out when and where and how to outsource what you do. And sometimes your core product is not always the best to outsource. You need to kind of build it from the inside out.
Yeah.
That's a great lesson to learn. I'm excited to see where Food Safe Systems goes as we hit 2022. We're recording this at the end of Q1, and I know you really started the business right as the pandemic hit, and that kind of threw off a lot of things. So how has Food Safe Systems kind of weathered the storm during the pandemic to what it's doing today? And how did you kind of keep chugging along when your clients were closing down because they weren't sure what's next, and you have this new tech product for the market? What was that experience like, and how did you kind of plug along through it to where you are today?
Yeah, the pandemic. So after a few false starts in regards to the product, so we released a food safe system, kind of as it is now, as it a few updates, but essentially as it is now, in the beginning of 2020, basically just in time for COVID to kick in. So we were just, we had the plans out, we had customers, and we had our first customers on board. We were getting ready to scale. I think at that stage we just engaged started with Starta and stuff, and so it was like, this is really gonna. And then everything just literally just turned off the lights. I think I could even saw the website traffic where it literally just hits a brick wall on the 16th of March, and stops. And we're like, whoa, that's that's going to be interesting. At that stage, customers we had, trying to say, listen, we're closing. We don't know how long we'll close for. We have no money coming in. We can't afford to pay you, even though it's not that much. We gotta cut out everything. So all of a sudden we dropped to zero. Income was like, okay, now we're, and my background, I suppose, in regards to what food safe system is, and what we do is that even though it does apply to every food business, be it a corner shop, selling a sandwich, right through to, multinational hotel groups, we've always really focused on the restaurant side because of my background. But we always wanted to, it is applicable to like food service and food production and food manufacturing. So during COVID, we had to go, okay, well, we're going to have to move from hospitality to the food manufacturing and food production. So that's what we did. We did, a few updates to make it more usable in those industries, and then kind of built from there.
Yeah.
And then thankfully, as hospitality came back, we could see it when there was kind of these announcements say, oh, it's coming back at the end of the month. We could see the traffic, website traffic going up, the inquiries going up, and then the sales just came along with it.
Love that. I mean, I think that's really important too. Is it would have been really easy to kind of be like, well, shit, let's shut her up. Instead, it's like, how do we adapt the product for other industries that are still operating, and how do we leverage that into a bigger product and service offering that's supportive of the whole market? And it's really impressive. And I've, for those listening, I'm the entrepreneur in residence for Food Safe Systems. I've been advising and working with Neil for the last 2 years on some of these strategies, and it's been really amazing to see the grit that you have to have as an entrepreneur. Shit's not going to go your way. It's not easy. And you have to have the fortitude to kind of push through and figure out how do we adapt and overcome. And that's something that I think Food Safe System has done. And I'm excited to see where it grows in going forward. And now you're operating out of, Northern Ireland, UK, Austria, parts of Europe, doing some tests in Mexico, starting to test in the US market. So it's amazing to see what can happen if you just put your head down, focus, and adapt and overcome. And I think it's such an amazing thing that has happened. Man, Neil, I have 1.5 million other questions, but I know we're getting short on time. So I kind of want to transition to, what's, the kind of the end. I always like to ask a few questions of my guests. And I think that last point of overcoming, adapting, kind of leads great into this question. For those out there listening, whether it's Gen Z, millennial, boomer that's looking to start a business, be an entrepreneur, what advice would you give them? What would you tell them? If someone said, hey, I want to start a business, what would you tell them?
Just start one. It doesn't matter what it is, be it, start a YouTube channel, start something on Reddit, think of the problem that you have. Because at the end of the day, Food Safe System came about from a problem that I faced in my kitchens and my restaurants. And that's kind of where we built it from, and no matter, just build something that solves a problem for you. And no matter how big or how small you think that problem is, and then go and see if somebody else wants to buy it, and if they don't, that's okay. We'll come up with something else. We'll come up with another problem, but definitely go, find a passion, find a problem, start a business, find a solution, and it probably won't work. It'll probably fail, first time, maybe even the second time, maybe even the third time. But you'll learn more in those failures than you will ever learn, by sitting, listening to it, just sitting, listen to, a classroom or listen to a lecture.
Yeah.
Doing things is definitely, that's what I advise. Just do stuff.
I love it. I think it's really important. Understand that you're going to probably fail at some point. Starting a business is fucking hard, and it's not going to be perfect. And if you try to wait for things to be perfect, it's never going to work. You have to go out there. You have to take it to market. You have to test it out. You need to look for opposition and validation, right? Because if there's opposition, then, people have questions about it, which just shows interest. And then that you can validate against that. And I love that you fail and learn from those failures, because, as you kind of explained, Food Safe Systems wouldn't be where it is today, operating at starting, to grow profits if you hadn't had, and maybe you would have, but having the pandemic and adapting it to different markets, a bigger market has actually allowed you to scale at a different speed, I think, now than we thought possible. And that's something that every entrepreneur needs to understand, is that you got to try. You're going to probably fail, learn from it, and grow from it.
Yeah, as I said, just on the, like we said, we opened our first restaurant, it was Copper. We had it for 8 years. And probably as a reputation, it succeeded. As making money, it failed miserably.
Yeah.
So we walked away with a huge debt. That's why I said I'm never doing it again. But then we opened the supper clubs. I said we spent a lot of money on opening Copper, and that's what we put a lot of money in. We opened up the Sugar Supper Club, literally spent no money. We begged, borrowed, and stole everything that we could just to get it open. And it was one of those places that there were queues out the door, on a Tuesday night. And again, it was just kind of using that. That didn't work. We spent on this. So let's not do that again. Let's do it different this time. And then, so yeah, I mean, failure is, you always learn more from your failures and you probably just do successes.
I love that. I always love asking this question. What do you think your superpower is?
Well, that's easy. I'm Irish. That's all we need. We can usually talk away in and out of problems, drink away in and out of problems, and yeah,
I love it. And final question: what's a lasting message that you want listeners to take away, from your journey and what you've been able to build?
I suppose what I kind of, do what makes you happy, because honestly, outside of your friends and family, nobody else cares. Nobody really gives a fuck about what you do and what you're doing. They'll tell you that they'll go, oh yeah, we'll do this and we'll help you, and some will. Don't get me wrong. There are people there who are willing to help. All people out there say they'll help, and you'll never see them again. Yeah. But don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. They'll make no difference to whether or not it shouldn't and won't make any difference to whether you succeed or fail, whether these people help you. It's whether or not it's what you do as it matters. So yeah, just focus on what you do. And do what you want to do.
I love it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and look at social media and be like, oh, they're more successful than me. They're building fast. Know that that's not true, right? Yeah. You got to go at your own speed. You got to go at your own pace. You got to learn at your own lessons. By starting a side hustle or jumping in and starting your own business, you can't rely on anybody but yourself. And there will be people in your life, and there'll be people that will come on board and help take you to the next level and help be your ride or die. But those are far and few in between. That if you want to get something done, you got to put your time, energy, and effort to do it yourself, to do it right. And you got to keep doing it over and over again and know that things aren't going to go as planned. So I love that lasting message. I think that's such a great takeaway. And it's something that you've shown that you can do, right? Starting businesses and starting restaurants and run for 8 years. For a restaurant, that's like forever to run for 8 years. That's a great experience. And, the fact that was even seen as a failure to the next thing that turned into a huge success that leveraged into what you're doing today it shows that put your head down, put in the work and chase your passion and your dream. And only you can really, really drive that. So I love that. How can listeners find you? Where can they get in touch with you, Neil?
I'm always on LinkedIn. It's probably the best place to get me. Twitter occasionally, usually on LinkedIn. Never really on Facebook. But our website's out there, foodsafesystem.com. I think it's got direct access to me at all stages. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to put your LinkedIn, your Twitter handle, and the website. So if you want to get in touch, I can tell you firsthand, Neil's always available to help. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a question, want to pick his brain, feel free to reach out. Especially if you're a chef as well, chef for restaurants. Neil's been there.
If you want some advice from restaurants, I am always happy to help. People come to me and I come by food and goes, yes, and I am happy to help. And in any way, no matter what it is, it's something, because I want people to succeed.
I love it. I love it. And that's what we're here about, Bear Nation, right? We want to see amazing entrepreneurs share their stories, share their journey, share their challenges, overcome and succeed. So that's what Bear Nation is all about. So Bear Nation, go show Neil some love. Neil, thank you so much for being a part of Bear Nation today. I really appreciate having you on the show. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure, as always.
All right, Bear Nation. Until next episode, stay well and rise up. Bear Nation, once again, thank you for tuning in and listening to the Bear Necessities podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review. It really does help and means a lot to us at the show. And I want to thank our friends over at Fin. Fin is a social good platform that creates employee engagement and builds culture. It's our mission to support and give back to the communities that we serve around the world. And we do this by giving every guest on our show a $10 donation to the cause of their choosing using the Fin platform. Until next time, thank y'all, stay well, and rise up. If you hadn't already heard about it, or you don't already know, my new book, The Social Soul, How to Master Your Personal and Professional Brand with Intentionality and Authenticity, is out now. You can find it on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Go check it out, purchase a copy, let me know what you think, leave me a review. I appreciate y'all for the support. Can't wait to hear from you what stood out the most.